Hello YouTube friends, welcome to my channel. So today we are talking about obviously the Microsoft closures of multiple Bethesda studios, as you can see right here from Shinobi. So we have these studios, ArKane, Austin, Redfall, who made Redfall. They also made Prey. Tango Gameworks, who made The Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, and Hi-Fi Rush. Alpha Dog Studios, which I believe was just a mobile studio. They made a Doom mobile game, I believe. And Roundhouse Studios, which I think they were more or less a supporting studio. I think they were also a mobile studio. But anyway, my takeaway on this is a little bit different than everybody else's. It seems like there's been a lot of misinformation about these studios floating around. Some people are losing their minds like they're top tier studios. Now, make no doubt about it. Tango Gameworks was a top tier studio until Hi-Fi Rush launched. People don't understand that when Hi-Fi Rush launched last year in 2023, I believe it stealth launched in January of last year. The founder of the studios, actually the two founders of the studio, I believe, they left and they took all their development talent with them. Tango Gameworks was gutted last year. They've been pretty much running on his skeleton crew since then. You could say they've been really, they were only there to push patches for like Hi-Fi Rush. I guess the other games like Evil Within 1 and 2, Ghostwire Tokyo, etc. But people were acting like they lost a lot of talent there. They really didn't. Those guys left. In fact, one of the founders of it, of Tokyo Gameworks, left, and he created another studio. So they were already gone. So to me, the only thing that's losing in Tango Gameworks, to be honest, is the name alone, because there was nobody there. And that's just a hard truth. I actually had brought this up on Twitter last year, and I was like, when are they going to repopulate that studio? Because I was asking questions, and I was being called kind of crazy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, they're gonna do that. They'll keep them around. Like it's part of their future. And I'm like, well, if they don't populate them with a lot of talent, they're not going to be part of anything. And here we are. ArKane Austin is another thing. They were, again, you have to understand, ArKane Austin, Alpha Dog Studios, and Roundhouse Studios were all support studios for the most part. I believe Alpha Dog made one game. Roundhouse, I don't know what games they ever made. Mostly, again, support. And ArKane Austin, the two games they're known for is Prey and Redfall. Redfall, as you know, is one of the, I think it's one of the worst, if not the worst reviewed Xbox game ever. And Prey was more or less a love letter to System Shock. It did have a following. Again, neither one of these games moved the needle, Prey or Redfall. ArKane Austin was more or less a support studio to ArKane Lyon, which is the main studio for ArKane. They're the ones who make, they made like Deathloop. Who else? There's that's like stealth game. Cannot remember what the heck it's called. But that ArKane Lyon, of course, they're also now in the process of making Blade. So that is the main studio, ArKane Austin. They had their chances with Prey and Redfall to kind of show, almost kind of like what I want to say, like to give you an example, what Activision did with Treyarch. Infinity Ward was the main developer for Call of Duty, and Activision gave a chance to Treyarch, and Treyarch actually did pretty well, at least with their their first two iterations. I believe it was Call of Duty 2 Big Red, or it was Call of Duty Big Red. It was kind of like a DLC, and then on top of that too, then of course they made Call of Duty 3. Neither one of those games particularly people liked. And then, of course, they blew it out of the water with Black Ops, and then they've been one of their main staples ever since. So, again, really their second full-fledged game, I believe, was Black Ops. But anyway, it's kind of like ArKane Austin. They had their chances, and now they're getting consolidated. Same thing with Tango Gameworks. I know some of these developers, not all these developers, are getting let go. A lot of them are getting consolidated back into Bethesda, other studios. Alpha Dog Studios, of course, made the Doom game. Again, support studio, and Roundhouse Studios was a support studio. I believe Roundhouse is the only one that kind of survived, They got the developers for that studio. I don't know if anybody's getting fired from there. They got wrapped it back into the developing studio that develops ESO, which is Elder Scrolls Online. Again, my take on this is that I'm not surprised. The industry for the last 5 years, the gaming industry for the last 5 years has been bloating itself. They've been overhiring. Instead of, again, we used to get, if you go back to the late 2000s, early 2010s, we would get, like, you'd probably have anywhere between 10 to 20 games a year that came out that were absolutely, and I'm talking about AAA games, that were absolutely outstanding. You would have that down year, that occasional down year where something didn't hit, or multiple games didn't hit or whatever. But seems like lately that happens all the time. Instead of getting those 10 to 20 gems, we get maybe 1 or 2 gems. The AAA games seem to fall short all the time. I don't know. To me, it seems like a lot of these developers have been getting unlimited resources and unlimited time to make things, and they just haven't been pulling the weight. And you have to remember, these studios, I believe, except for ArKane Austin, was the only one. I believe, again, they were already there with ArKane. But the other 3 got bought by ZeniMax Media / Bethesda, right? When Bethesda was trying to become a top-tier publisher. Instead of just being a developer and a game maker, they were trying to become a top-tier publisher. So they bought these games to flush out, or these development houses to flush out their publishing sector, or their developing sector for the publishing. And it was inevitable that a lot of these studios were going to be shut down or reconsolidated because they just do not belong anymore. Okay? The days of, I want to say, again, you have to understand, the vast majority of studios, development studios now, and publishers are not meeting the bottom line. There's only a few that are actually making money. Sony, Nintendo, the big guys, Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, or Xbox, whatever. Tencent, I believe. EA is surprisingly making money, but EA has also been pumping out some pretty good stuff lately. So you do have these studios that have been making money. Activision Blizzard King, I think, was one of the ones that was kind of like not making really money. They were doing okay, but they weren't doing great considering. And then Bethesda or ZeniMax Media was another one. And so when Microsoft bought these studios, I was like, they're going to consolidate. They're going to shut down because these studios, these publishers have been mismanaged for years. And not saying that Microsoft has managed Xbox great, but the fact remains that a lot of this is bloat. This is bloat, and you're going to see this again. This isn't just Microsoft. Sony has done this. I believe Take-Two has done this. EA has done this. Ubisoft has done this. It's going to, Embracer Group. It is happening across the spectrum. The last 5 years, especially 2020, 2021, and 2022, the expansion was insane. Okay. 2022 was the last year that everyone was popping champagne and having a good time in terms of the money. Now revenue is down across the board. People are, hell, Sony has basically said they're not going to meet their quota for PlayStation 5s being sold. They've cut the demand, or they've not cut the demand, but they've cut the prediction, right? They thought 25 million, now it's down to 20 million. Some believe it might only be 18 million. They don't know for 2024. So, again, it's something that is affecting everybody. And you're going to have little development houses like this that were mostly, except for Tango Gameworks, I would say, they were the only ones. Again, that was the only one I would say that's kind of like their own little thing. They did help develop other games as well, but they also like really pulled their own weight in terms of their own games. The problem is that their entire development team left after Hi-Fi Rush dropped, and the actual main developer of that company didn't even have anything to do with Hi-Fi Rush. His last game made was Ghostwire Tokyo, and then after that he was there for support, and then he left along with almost everybody else that had been part of Tango Gameworks for years. They all left, and he made another company or another dev house, and now he owns that he runs that dev house, and that's it. But a lot of these little developers are having problems staying alive. Consolidation is going to continue to happen. I hate to tell people who don't want to hear that. It's going to continue because these dev houses cannot stay, because the amount of money it takes now to make a game, and for you to actually have to sell that game or put that game on a service and then people play that game on the service in order for it to make money back is astronomical now. Astronomical. You know, we heard, like, I still remember when people heard Halo Infinite was cost $500 million to make. And people were just like, oh my God, that's insane. It's like, is it really? I mean, think about it. Now, again, from my understanding, Halo Infinite has pulled a profit. It's making money. People shit on that game. They shitted on it when it came out. They shit on it to this day. But it's pulling its own weight. It's actually making money. It's actually, it's actually kind of got back in favor. But again, little games like Hi-Fi Rush, you're going to see far fewer than those games because they just don't make any money. I mean, 3 million people played it. It didn't make any money. The Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, The Evil Within 2, did they really move the needle? No, they didn't. Were they pretty good games? Yes, they were. But you have to move the needle in every aspect now. It can't just be, oh, we made a great game that it got mostly 9s and 10s reviews, but it made no money. You can't do that anymore in this era. The games cost too much money, and it just isn't going to happen. But yeah, this is my take on this. Again, I'm not, for some people, this is like DEFCON 1, which means we're having a nuclear war. To me, it's just like, well, what did you expect? Eventually, corporations, and this is just how it goes, they're going to want results. They're going to want you to act. They're going to start putting people's feet to the fire. I still remember when they started talking about crunch being taken away. I'm like, really? We'll see how that goes. And we saw how it went. You had ArKane Austin, who had been working on Redfall since 2017. The game launched in 2023. 6 years, and that's what we got. You can't have that. You can't be pumping all this money. Again, 4 of those years, Microsoft had nothing to do with it. But I'm saying, though, you can't be pumping all this money into a project and it going nowhere. And then you get the result where only about 2 million people play the game, which, again, today, 2 million people doesn't mean anything. 2 million people is nothing, especially when you have a game developed for 6 years and then only 2 million people play it. I mean, you're going to get fired. That's a fireable offense. This is the funny thing is I think this is actually, people are starting to come back to the real world. The gaming sphere for so long has been an alternate reality in terms of expectations, resources, length to make a game. Games, people believe that every game should be like GTA 6 when it launches. Okay, that's going to be a game. That's going to be a game changer, an industry changer. That game also costs $2 billion to make, but they will make that money back on the same day. But you can't have games like that come around once a generation, and that's it. You know, and even then, Take-Two is going to be looking for probably cuts because they're going to be like, well, you know, because again, I guarantee you, because GTA 6, as we know, okay, it's going to come out. It's going to be a single-player game for a year at least. The online portion of that game will not be available probably for a year. The PC game portion of that game will not be available for a year. So it's going to be console only. So they'll make a lot of money. Trust me, they're going to make a lot of money on this. But it's going to be a game that's going to be it's going to be non-profitable for them until probably year 5 when the online has brought back that thing. Just like GTA 5 was a huge success, but the online's what made them the actual money. So same thing's going to happen with GTA 6. But again, it's a game that comes around once a generation. Not every game can be like that. Games are becoming extremely expensive, and they're going to want us again. I have seen this coming for years. We have seen over for the last 5 or 6 years where you have now only one to, I would say again, it's probably anywhere between, let's say 5 to 7 games that actually hit the mark, and everything else is just bad. Where it used to be 20 games would hit the mark, and it's just not happening anymore, right? It's not happening. And revenues are down for everyone. Microsoft's revenue for their gaming division will be up this year because Activision Blizzard King will bring that revenue up. So instead of having a $15.7 billion revenue stream, they are now having anywhere between 22 to 24 billion. But then you'll see the following year, it's going to be like flat. Trust me, like it's going to be flat. It's going to stay the same, or it might even go down. Right. The only reason it's going up is because of the huge acquisition. That's it. Everybody else is going to remain flat, or they're going to be lost. They're going to be losing a little bit of revenue, including Nintendo until they push out the Switch 2. And then they'll have a big windfall there. Possibly the PlayStation with the PlayStation 5 Pro. We'll see a windfall as well. We'll see. But that's my comments on this. I've been seeing this coming for years. We saw, of course, it started back last year. It's only going to get worse this year. Look for bigger dev houses to lose everything going forward. From Microsoft, from Sony, a lot of these dev places. Embracer Group is also going to get rid of some stuff. Trust me. Or sell off some stuff. Maybe sell IPs and then shut down the whole unit. That's going to happen. Consolidations will continue because, again, dev houses just cannot make the money back. And they need the big corporations to back them so they at least have some backing. But then again, these big corporations are going to be like, is your product moving the needle for the revenue? Is your product moving the needle for the culture? If not, then you're going to get bashed in the head and you're going to get left on the side of the road for dead. That's just how it's going to happen. And these 4 studios found out. Again, bloat from a different era that was bought by Bethesda / ZeniMax years ago, and they weren't going to last. Especially Tango Gameworks when they lost everybody. If Tango Gameworks would have kept everyone, they would have been not on this list today. But they lost everybody. A skeleton crew was running them. What do you expect? And the other 3, whatever. Support units only. Anyway, that's what I got to say about this. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Give me a like, subscription. Press that button. And that's all I got to say, guys. You guys have a blessed day. And keep gaming. Peace.